So now that we've looked at a few ways to create tests in Postman, I wanted to walk you through a more fully fleshed out test suite, just to show what the Postman tool is capable of. Postman really is a fully fledged automation tool, and there's lots of companies that use Postman tests to automate all of their API tests. So let's take a look at some of the stuff that's possible with Postman. Before I start going through the tests here, I just wanted to let you know where the references for all the stuff you can do in the test sandbox and the pre-requests. It's all here in the Postman docs, and they should be the URL underneath. And this really tells you all you need to know. Postman basically uses a subset of JavaScript to do their testing. So I'm not a JavaScript expert. Honestly, most of what I know about JavaScript comes from doing things in Postman. So this is really a great way to get started with automation. It's a great way to get started using JavaScript. So that's the documentation. And let's take a look at the tests. So I created a new collection here called the RESTful Booker BVT. We're going to pretend this is a sort of a smoke test for the RESTful Booker to make sure that the functionality is working as it should with a very quick set of tests. And the first thing we've done at the collection level, let's go here. So here we have the pre-request scripts. And what these are scripts that run before the requests. And at the collection level, these are things that run first before anything else. So what I've done here is I want to set up a situation where we always know what the booking object is that we're working with. It's really important in automation to know what the answer should be before you ask the question. So this is how we're going to create our object that we're then going to run tests on. So I have some arrays of common first names and last names, and then I am randomly picking things from those arrays and setting them in the Postman variables object. So the Postman variables are available to the collection while the tests are running. But then they go away, so they're not cluttering everything up while the tests aren't running. And this random functionality comes from a module called Lodash, which is available automatically. See, it's a Lodash. That's why it's called Lodash. And this has a lot of functionality for dealing with arrays and collections, and also for creating random numbers. So that's Lodash. So I'm getting first name, last name, some prices. This random 1 is equal to 1 is basically a coin flip to decide whether we paid the deposit or not. This next module that we're using is Moment, and this is something that works with dates and formatting. It makes it a lot easier than just the native JavaScript date. So in order to input it, in order to bring it into our script, we just need to do this require. And now we have this require moment, and we can call this moment object to do all of our date manipulation. So now we have all our randomly picked values, and we can put them together into a brand new booking object, and then we're saving that also into our variables so that all of the tests in our build verification tests can use this new booking object. So let's just take a quick look at how this random booking generator is going to work. We'll go here to our create booking, and let's just run it a few times. You can see here in the body, I'm accessing all the variables with the double curly braces, first name, last name, etc. And now when I send, you can see that I have a booking here for Joshua Martin for 219 whatevers. We'll say dollars. Austin Harris. So I can run this any number of times, and the booking is going to be a little different every time, but still realistic. So that's basically what we want in our booking generator. So we'll look at a couple of the simple ones first. We have ping. We already looked at ping. Of course, it doesn't return a 200, it returns a 201, but what matters is that it's a heartbeat that is returning 200 something. So that's this response to be success, means that the response is in the 200s. Our off, this is going to respond with a 200. So response contains token. This is based on we don't know what the value of token is going to be. We just want to know that there is a token value. So that's what this toHave property is. Delete booking is a little more interesting. Before we run the delete, we have to have something to delete. So what we're going to do is we take our generated booking object, and we're actually going to call create booking sort of under the covers here in our pre-request. So this is a setup for our delete test. So this is using the PM send request, and all of that information on how to do send request is here in the Postman documentation. So we're doing a send request, and we get the result back here, this RES, this response, and then we can pull the new booking ID out of the JSON booking and save that. So now we know what the booking ID is, and we can delete that booking. So we have our booking ID, and then we make sure we got a 200. And then what we do here is, again, we're doing a send request. This is now after the request has been made. We want to make sure that the booking is actually deleted. So we're doing a send request to get the booking by ID. So we get our environment URL and add the booking and the booking ID that we already know what it is. Note that in the script we can't use this double curly brace. We have to get it from the variables using PM variables. So we get that, and we make sure that it becomes a 404. So basically, we create the booking, we delete the booking, and then we make sure that we cannot get it again, that it's a 404. So let's see how this works. So, of course, we have our 201 created, which I consider a bug. But the good news is that the booking no longer exists. So the delete functionality is still working. So there's a lot of other tests here, and we could spend the next hour or 2 or 3 going through all the possible ways to test and all the different variables you can try and the little quirks of JavaScript. But before we really get in the weeds with that, let's run this BVT and see what happens with it. So we come up here to the collection runner, and we're going to run. And you can run just the folders, or you can run the whole thing. So let's just go for it here. See what happens. So we have 44 that passed and 9 that failed. And in the collection runner, you can narrow it down to ones that passed or ones that failed. So let's look at some of the failed ones. This one is very interesting here in valid create. The check-in was actually not what we wanted. I'm going to admit that I've been working with RESTful Booker for quite a while now, and I never realized that the date handling was so whack until I did this BVT. And this is why dates should always be timestamps and not strings. Okay, but enough of the soapbox about dates. So there's some other interesting ones here. So for example, here in the patch, when we inserted a null first name, it actually turns out that if you do it through patch, it will take the null first name. So this is some of the issues that have been revealed by our build verification test. And if you want to dig in a little deeper onto a specific test, a great tool is the Postman console. So for example, if I go here to the invalid patch, and I have the pre-request script, again, I'm creating the object before I modify it. And I'm doing the first name null. and our tests, so we can send this. And if we look at our console window, this shows all the requests that went through, the post that happened in the pre-request. And even here you can see that the booking dates are not correct. We submitted July 4th, 2019, and it thought we meant July 3rd. And also, it shows, here's our patch, and it shows the null here, and then the response body where it said null is just fine. So that's the collection runner and the console. And this is just a little peek at the kinds of tests you can do in Postman. I encourage you to load this collection and go through the tests. Hopefully you can be inspired to think about how you could write tests for your own APIs.